everyone, what is up? I just wanted to do a quick video tonight about what my plans are for the league start for Expedition League tomorrow. As you know, my internet is very crappy here, and I ended up not streaming much last league and just doing some progress videos daily instead. That is going to be the case again this league. We are currently on the waiting list to try Elon's Starlink internet, but we are still on the waiting list, so that unfortunately did not come in time for this league, so my internet still sucks. So I won't be streaming, but I will be doing daily or every other day or so progress updates on the builds I'm doing to give you a good idea of what is going on and how builds are progressing. My plans for the league start: I have two builds I want to try. I'm still waffling slightly between the two of them, but I'm thinking I'll probably go with the one that this tree is for. This is for a Shield Crush, new skill, Bleed Gladiator. Going to be going for approximately max block. We'll eventually get there with some better gear and stuff, but we get quite a bit just from the tree, and I think it should scale Bleed pretty differently. I don't think it's going to be crazy DPS, but for a long time, Bleed Gladiators of really any sort have been pretty solid league starters, and I think this will be no exception. I think it'll be pretty tanky and will clear really well and should have good enough single target, if not amazing. And it's not hit super hard by a lot of the nerfs. I kind of dodged some of the nerfs using a couple of support gems that aren't really nerfed. Probably going to be using Multi-Strike, which wasn't nerfed for Bleed because they just increased the attack damage penalty on it. And I'm going to be using Melee Fizz, which they only nerfed attack speed on. It gives 10% less attack speed now, and that doesn't really matter so much for Bleeds. So that's a couple gems that kind of dodged a bullet there. It's definitely going to be some experimenting going into a lot of the builds going forward here, since we don't know exactly how all of these changes will play out. This is basically what it's going to look like. I get a decent amount of life and stuff. Good amount of jewel slots that I can fill out some missing life with. Really wanted to focus on block and picking up all of the nice bleed clusters and stuff. Don't have a lot of points left over, so I'm not probably going to be able to do something like cleaving. I may do cleaving with my anoint because it gives 30% damage and then 15% faster bleeds. Typically I would anoint growth and decay over here for damage over time multiplier and 1% life regen. But that's basically how it would be. Just have to get a good shield and probably use Jack the Axe in the main hand. Pop stuff with bleed explosions here on the Gladiator. And I think that would be a pretty solid option and is probably what I will start with. The other one that I'm interested in trying is another new skill, that being Storm Rain. I think it looks pretty interesting, and there are some interesting ways to scale it. And again, you can sort of dodge, at least with a couple of the support gems, the nerfs. Definitely potential for using... I'd be using Mirage Archer, which didn't get nerfed, except in terms of mana. Everything got nerfed in terms of mana. But yeah, I'd be using Mirage Archers, and then I would be using P-Pad, which got nerfed only very slightly, and Storm Rain doesn't really scale with attack speed at all, so you don't care about the attack speed penalty on it, so that'd be a pretty solid option. And I'd be doing some cold conversion to go along with the lightning conversion and using Trinity. The thing that scares me away from doing this build as the starter instead of the other one is I think it definitely will require a bit more gear to get off the ground. Specifically, very low life on the tree, only 131%. Planning on using a large cluster jewel with 2 Fettle small jewels on it down here to pick up some of the life I'd be missing and get to a decent amount of life. But I don't know exactly when Fettles are going to become available, and I don't want to be heavily dependent on that kind of thing. So I'll probably save this for the second build. It's also going to need a nice bow and stuff, of course, so it'll be a little more gear dependent overall. But I think it's got a lot of potential. I think it should clear nicely and boss nicely based on the little bit of footage we've seen of Storm Rain. So that'll probably be my second build. Those are the only two I have trees for. This is a pretty generic crit bow tree. And again, with the changes to Diamond Flask, it being a crit build also means it's, you know, even more dependent on gear, because I'm going to want like a Hatred Watcher's Eye with Hatred crit and probably body armor with crit and stuff to be able to reach a good crit level. So I don't think you really want to start with a crit build at this point with how nerfed the Diamond Flask was. That was a major crutch that sort of made it so you could go halfway in on crit and still hit a really effective crit level. I don't really think that's going to be possible anymore. So yeah, I think I'll leave this for the second build, and I'll probably start with this Shield Crush Gladiator. I was toying with some alternate ideas for scaling this a little bit, possibly dropping some of these life in other places and going up in here for this life and endurance charge, because two support gems that didn't get nerfed at all this patch, and I think you are probably going to start seeing them in a number of builds, are Power Charge on Critical Strike and Endurance Charge on Melee Stun. They didn't get nerfed. Previously, they've been on the weaker end of support gems, and you didn't really use them. Instead, you'd go out of your way to find another form of charge generation. But, you know, on any of the charge stacking classes, whether that be a Juggernaut or an Occultist or an Assassin, any of these characters that get either an extra endurance charge or power charge, so that brings you up to 7 just with getting all the ones on the tree. And if you got an 8th one on gear from somewhere, that would make power charge on crit and endurance charge on melee stun 32% multipliers with no downsides, which is pretty darn strong. After all the support gem nerfs, that would put them at sort of the upper tier of support gems most of the time. So that's an alternate path that I might go there, depending on how much I like or don't like the other gem setups I've been investigating. Again, it's going to take a lot of experimentation. We're kind of going into a new world with PoE here, which I'm excited about. I'm not excited about some of the nerfs. I think the mana nerfs in particular were a bit heavy-handed and annoying. Though at the same time, flasks kind of suck now, so you might as well just throw in a mana flask, because you're probably not losing out on much from another flask, so I think you're going to see a lot of attackers just using an enduring mana flask now, especially since for attackers, the enduring mana flasks effectively got buffed. They give less mana, but they also don't have reduced duration anymore, so you should be able to just power all of your attack skills pretty much, unless you're using an expensive one with insane attack speed. Should be able to just go off an enduring mana flask fine. So, those are my plans. No streams, unfortunately, but I hope you'll subscribe to the YouTube and look for those new videos, because I am pretty excited for this league. I think the expedition mechanic looks fun, and I'm excited for all the experimentation opportunities and stuff there are now with things being shaken up so much, even if I'm not totally happy with all the changes. Thank you for watching, stay tuned for those videos, and I'll see you in Rayclast.